Hello friends, my name is Nick and today we're going to get crafty with houseplants. I love getting creative with houseplants. I think there is so much more to indoor gardening than just putting a plant inside a planter and calling it a day. So today we are just going to do some little experiments. I was at Marshall's earlier today, just peeking around, and I found these glass canisters for $4.99, a steal. And I was like, we can totally do something like terrarium-like with this. I haven't really decided if we're going to do like a little landscape scene inside or if we're just going to like plant a plant directly inside. Maybe we'll try both ways because we have two of them. I don't know, we're just gonna have a little fun with it. They had different color caps. I like this one better, I think it fits my home, but I just wanted to try also working with the silver one because I feel like this is also a little bit more modern, just to give you guys a little bit more variety, I guess. But yeah, I don't really know what to do with these. So let's have some fun with them. I gotta get the tags off first, which that is always a feat when you purchase something from a Marshall's or a TJ Maxx or Home Goods or whatever. This video is obviously not sponsored. Rubbing alcohol works wonders getting off that little bit of extra residue from the tags. Looks great. We're obviously going to need some, we're going to need some plants. That's what I don't know what I'm going to do. I have a couple of plants that I think would really benefit from being inside an enclosure like this. Let's go round up a couple. First of all, I have this Monolana Primaflora. Is that how you say it? I got this from Logi's. I did like that online shop with me from Logi's, an unboxing video a couple months ago. And it had like 2 leaves on it and they were just like kind of getting uglier like by the month. So I ended up just like shoving it inside this glass cloche. That word is always so hard to say. And it just, the leaves got like rotten and I was like, I can't tell if this is good or bad. The old leaves died and now it's putting off like this crazy amount of new growth from this like caudex at the base. I don't really know exactly what it is in this plant's case, but it's putting off so much new growth. It's obviously loving being inside the enclosure. The issue is though that the leaves are gonna get bigger and this isn't, you know, that much taller. I mean, I guess in theory these are the same size, but this is sitting up on the pedestal and I feel like I could probably get rid of some of that root and plant it up to like here, and then they would have all that room up here. The issue is I don't know how big these leaves are gonna get. From the looks of the plant in the picture on the website, it was like pretty big. I mean, the leaves just got like a decent amount bigger. So yeah, I just don't really know what to do, but it's a pretty cool plant. So this could be one that could really be given some justice being planted inside one of these. I also have this Hemigraphis Rapanda. We talked about it in last week's video. Pretty funky. This one's from stevesleaves.com, and as always, can't skip a week. You can use code PhillyFoliage to save 22% on your next purchase from stevesleaves.com if you have not used that code already. Oops. Doesn't fit in this one. This one looks like it's like the tiniest bit wider right here, so let's see. It's a little tight. I mean, it looks kind of fun. It's definitely a little tight though. How am I gonna get it out? Just pull on the top. Back when I worked in the houseplant store, when people would like have a basket full of plants and stuff, or we'd like be putting them in the bag and like their shopping bag, and we would grab the plant, like buy the plant like this, people would literally crap themselves. I understand, but it was also kind of funny. So I don't know if this is the go. I would like to put it in glass though because my cat has discovered this and she never likes chewing on houseplants. But when her food bowl, I mean, it's not empty, but you know, like a quarter of the way full, there's a threshold that cats have until they are starting to feel some real food insecurity, you know what I mean? She's recently discovered this sitting on my counter because I haven't found a spot for it yet. She's chewed a couple of the leaves down. So I would like to get this inside glass. Maybe it could go inside. No. I don't know. Anyway, we have a lot to figure out. I also have this Pilea Moon Valley, Pilea Mollus, Moon Valley. Also think that's gonna be a little, I'm not even gonna bother putting it in there. These leaves are a little big. Although this, I've always heard this to be a terrarium plant, and I've only had this for a couple of weeks, but it's been doing perfectly fine outside of the terrarium. Let's try to get this show on the road because I don't want to keep you waiting that much longer. I also have this Peperomia Silver Bandit that's been living inside this plastic bag because I grew one of these before and I feel like it needed that extra humidity. That could actually be really cute. I feel like I could like do this up, like with like moss and like stones and make it like really cute. I feel like it's roughly a good size. Like I feel like this wouldn't be, it's okay if these are pressing up against the glass. Well, this is a really good option. This is a really good option. And I have one more, let me just go grab because I just like options. I have this Peperomia Metallica. It's like the Colombiana variety. Definitely needs a drink, so it's a little droopy, but I'm like, this could also look really, really cute inside here. That is honestly such a vibe. Sorry, I'm looking at it from my angle. This would be really cute. And if I do like moss and stones, that could really be a vibe. Well, let's round up some materials and we are going to figure something out. I might even have some other plants that like jump out at me throughout this process. I literally don't know what we're doing. But we're gonna need some stuff. So I have just some stones here. They're just easier to work with if they're not in this canister here. I can just use a spoon. So these are some stones. I think these are just from IKEA, the old Ikizzle. We are going to need some charcoal. I have a bag of charcoal right here. I think the rest of the products I'm gonna use today are from repotme.com, which you can use code NICK to save 10% on any of their potting mixes. But this charcoal will just be good to put in the bottom, but I might try to like hide it in the center of the canisters because I just don't really love the look of the charcoal poking out, but it's really necessary. Just helps keep things clean. Then I also have this Precision Extra Small Orchiata Monterey bark. Asking if I pronounced all that correctly. This is a soil amendment. I will use this when I'm making like Hoya mixes and stuff, but I also really, really love it as decoration, like a top dressing. It looks fantastic. And so we're gonna need anything. Let's grab some just in case. Don't have that much of it, I just have it sitting in this terracotta planter here. But I have some sheet moss. This is not from repotme.com. This is from a purveyor called Mossman, who literally has the best moss. And I have not gotten any more of it since I stopped working at the plant store, so. Maybe I gotta order myself some Mossman moss if I need a bunch of moss around. The only problem is it's the box is a giant box of moss and it smells like wet dog, so I don't want that in my apartment. But anyway, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? So I do really like the idea of putting this Monolana inside because I really just think it's gonna get big. I don't know how wide it's gonna get though. Like these leaves are growing very upright. I think it could be a vibe. Like I could, hopefully we'll see what the root situation's like. It doesn't really look like there's much like poking out the bottom. But I could maybe get it like kind of low inside the canister so it has a lot of room to grow upright. There's just a lot going on this Codex thingy here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that are producing leaves. Maybe I missed a couple. And there are even more like green spouts coming. And part of me is like, should I just leave this in here? Will this do better? Will I regret taking it out? But at the same time, I'm like, I feel like it's just gonna have to come out sooner than later. The main qualm I'm having is that this planter is pretty wet and I don't like to repot things when they're wet. However, if you have something inside an enclosure, it stays wet pretty long. It takes a long time to dry out, so it might be months before this literally dries out. It seems that plants can handle that a little better when they're inside these humid environments. I just gotta make sure that I'm using very well draining soil. Should grab some soil as well. We are going to use, once again by repotme.com, the Houseplant and Tropical Classic potting mix today. It's got a good amount of perlite in it, and it's made from coconut coir, so I think that's gonna be much better in an enclosed space without an actual drainage hole in comparison to peat moss. So it's a little too loamy. Let's just move some of this stuff out of the frame. And then we're going to just put a little bit of charcoal on the bottom. Like I said, I don't wanna go too crazy with it. I don't want it to be the star of the show or anything. Ooh. Sorry. Almost would like it to be a little bit more in the center. I do want that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, pro tip, kind of. I'm gonna see if I have a small plastic planter, which I do. This is perfect. I'm gonna grab a box cutter. Let me come back and show you what I'm doing. I'm just gonna take this planter right here. I'm gonna cut the bottom off of it. Carefully, obviously. Do better than me in being careful. There was one video I did like a long time ago, like very, very long ago, and I was using a box cutter, and I 100% cut myself with the box cutter while I was filming, but I think it was like a video I was partnering with a company with, and it was like one of the first times I was partnering, so like I could not like ruin the take. So I literally was just like, my hand was bleeding and I was like totally hiding it from the camera. That's terrible. Okay, so I just took this planter here, I'm done with these. We did it safely, no cuts, don't you worry. This is gonna be a little bit more difficult with this canister. It already has some charcoal on the bottom. I'm just being lazy. It's just gonna, you know, get water down there anyway. So I'm gonna put this in right there. In fact, I'm gonna do it the other way because it'll be easier to pull out. And then I might just use my fingers because the spoon's gonna make it more difficult. I'm gonna drop some charcoal in because I just really don't, crap. I just really don't want to see it. You know, it would be really convenient for this project that I don't have those like terrarium tweezers. I used to have those in my arsenal when I worked at the store. Yeah, don't have them with me today. So that's good. And then maybe I should have done it the other way because it might, it's probably going to be a little more difficult to pull out. Now that I'm going to put some soil, I'm gonna have to use the spoon for this, and it's okay if it gets on top of the charcoal. The goal is just to get it around the perimeter of this. There's also going to be a lot of this like metal on glass sound. Let's call it ASMR. Okay, so this is good. I'm gonna just nestle this out, and there we go. Now we have all the soil around the perimeter. And I feel like this is just the amount of soil that we're going to want in here before we put our Monolana in. You could also do this with stones. That's what I would do when I was making terrariums at the store. I would use my little trick there with stone, or it's charcoal in the center and then stones around the side. So it just looks like there's stones, no charcoal layer, but there is secretly a layer of charcoal in the center, helping keep things clean. So we're gonna get one of these collapsible buckets, my best friends. Let's carefully handle this Monolana. Fortunately, it has this Codex here, so it's going to be pretty easy to handle. Yeah, it's not like, it doesn't have the most robust root system. It seems like they're like a little bit more lacy, similar to like a Pilea. That checks out though, like a Pilea or a Peperomia, which are both houseplants that 100% thrive in like terrarium-like conditions. So, wish me luck with this. This houseplant was like 30 bucks, and it had 2 leaves on it when I got it. Just, you know, some plants out there, Monstera, Thai constellation, costs like double that. No, double that. 10 times that for 1 leaf or 2 leaves, so. You get what you want. I wanted this Monolana. It looked cool. All right, so I've gotten a good amount of stuff off. I feel like I might have took a little too much off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get just one more spoonful. Oh, God, almost fell off my stool there. I'm gonna get one more spoonful. We're making a mess today. Just gonna cover up the charcoal. I don't think it's a big deal at all if the roots are in contact with, soil my eye. What's going on today? I don't think it's gonna be a big deal if it's in contact with the charcoal, but you know, I'm just feeling it. So let's get these down there carefully. I'm gonna carefully grab this by the quadex and lower it in. Wait, I love it already! Oh my God. I think I would have liked it a little bit lower. My issue is, I'm not trying to like talk crap on people, but when I worked at the houseplant store, I'm saying that way too much, but we used to teach terrarium classes, and I personally did not teach the terrarium classes because that wasn't my vibe. My coworkers would teach the terrarium classes, and then every time like people would leave with their terrariums, they would like fill up the terrarium like 2/3 of the way with soil. And I'm like, the point of the terrarium is to see everything growing in the grass or the glass. So I didn't like to point that out to my coworkers that that's the hot tip that I would have for a terrarium class, but to each their own. Anyway, if you're making a terrarium, I highly recommend keeping the soil in no higher than the bottom third of the terrarium because it's just gonna look so much better aesthetically. Unless you're going for like an earthworm farm kind of deal, or if you're growing carrots, potatoes. But no, not for me. But like I said, to each their own. I'm not trying to yuck anybody's yum. We're just gonna add some soil carefully around the perimeter. I don't have to be careful, I just don't wanna like cover up my plant here because I really don't wanna raise the soil level any higher than it already is just for aesthetic purposes. But wow, I'm really obsessed when I turned it to this side, seeing that one leaf, this one just poking up. This is gonna look really good in here. I think I'm going to end up doing this one a little bit more plain than the other one. I feel like this houseplant has a lot of character to begin with. I mean, not right now. Right now it's a stump. But once it starts growing, this houseplant is going to have a lot of character, a little bit more character than my Peperomia Metallica over here, admittedly, which, you know, that's got a lot of character too. I'm not trying to down talk it. I'm just saying, I don't think this needs any aesthetic boosts. I do think we'll spank that the Peperomia might need a little aesthetic boost there to really get the point across. Looks fantastic already. That's such a vibe. I'm gonna get in there with my fingers. You can use whatever tool you have if you're doing something similar. This is such a fun idea though. I was just peeking around Marshall's. I live right by one. And I like having stuff in my possession that I can get creative with. Although, big news. I should stop buying too much stuff because I signed a lease at a new apartment. Not moving for a couple of months. Moving in September into October, giving myself another month coincide, just like I did last time I moved last year. Just because I have way too many plants to move and it's gonna take more than a weekend to move them. So giving myself a couple of weekends just to, you know, really have the time. I actually have a little tour of the apartment, a quick one, and a long 10-minute rant about the apartment over on my Patreon account. So if you do want to follow me on Patreon, there's plenty more videos than that. I do like full-on unboxings on Patreon too. If you don't follow me on Patreon, you're kind of missing out, but I kind of also like my little community over there. It's kind of small right now. Feel free to join us. But yes, I really enjoy the little sense of community that we have over on Patreon. It's a lot of fun, but I do like full-on videos that you don't get over here on YouTube, obviously. So if you are interested in seeing my new apartment before September, you know where to find it. So now I'm questioning what I want to do with this top layer of soil. Like I was saying, this has a lot going on. I don't think I need the moss. I think I would like to save the moss for the peperomias. I think it's gonna look so much better in there. Let's just do the bark. I feel like that'll look pretty clean. Just a little bit. I could do the stones, but no. I could also throw like a couple like decorations, accoutrements on the top of the soil. So now I'm like adding this. Now I'm like, I should have probably not added as much soil because now this is kind of covering up a little bit of it, but I'm just gonna make this a really thin layer. Oh, I could grab like, I could find like like an amethyst or a quartz or something. I think that would fit right in with here and just give it a little bit more character. And I feel like this is possibly looking a little plain to you, which is, you're allowed to have opinions. And I might agree with you right now, but these leaves, like I was saying, are so dynamic once they grow in. I feel like this is just going to be like just insane. And if I leave it in there for like a year or so, which I don't know how much time we're gonna get with this because I just have never done this before, it could just be just like this giant forest mess. I have high hopes, but I'm just going over a bunch of just like stones around my apartment. I was one of those kids who liked to collect rocks and minerals. So I have an extensive amount of rocks and minerals around my home. My dad and I used to collect them together. So for like his birthday or Christmas one year, I got a plant, I think it was like a snake plant. He killed it at this point, so it's not as cute as it sounds. But I took like 75% of the rocks and minerals collection and used it as a top dressing on the soil. And at first I thought it was gonna be like ugly and tacky, but it was actually adorable and he loved it, so. But yeah, I just found this little amethyst. I had it sitting in my little candle holder, which I've thrown a couple of rocks and minerals in there because Muffin has turned a couple of them into toys. So this will just add a little extra something. Like I said, it's not much, but I just have real high hopes that once this plant gets real established, it's going to not really require any of these extra, decorations. Sorry, there's one leaf back here that's a little covered by the bark, so I'm just uncovering it. But that's it. We're gonna have to water it now, so I'm gonna go get a spray bottle real quick with just some fresh water. And we're gonna spray particularly, gotta get the pressure going on this, around the sides of the glass because we wanna clean off the glass. Maybe even make this a stronger spray. Clean it up better, and I'll just go down and water. And the good thing about terrariums, obviously it's an enclosed space, so you're never recommended to plant inside an enclosed, or like a planter with no drainage hole, you know what I'm saying, like a cash pot or cash pot. You're not supposed to plant directly inside. But in this case, you can actually watch the water go down to the bottom, and so you kind of know if you watered it too much, which you shouldn't do, but you can also see if you haven't watered enough. And you can also watch the soil dry, so you can see visibly the soil from wet to dry and know when it's time to water your houseplant. But like I was saying, when you're working with enclosures like this, they usually stay moist for a pretty long time, and for some reason, the plants can handle it. But that soil is also pretty moist on the Monolana itself, so I don't want the soil to be dry, but I don't want it to be wet because I just don't want it to be like overwatered or anything, but I'll just give it a couple more sprays. But once you see that there's some water getting down to the bottom of the container, especially since there's still soil on the bottom of this and not just stones and gravel, that water's gonna be sucked back up. So that's perfect, that's exactly what we're looking for. I'm gonna let this sit uncovered for just like an hour as the water sets. You could cover it up. I'm just letting like the foliage dry off a little bit because I just sprayed the foliage with water, and it's totally fine with those humid conditions, but I'm just being extremely anal retentive. So let's move on to our other project, our peperomia. I think I'm gonna do the Metallica. This just doesn't look like it'll fit as well. And then I feel like with this, I could use less soil and make it more of like a freaking show. I have this orchid stick that I feel like could really bring a lot of life inside here. I'd obviously have to cut it, but I feel like I could like have it like upright, go into the center and really just give like, doing it on my side again, just give it like a lot of character. So I'm feeling this one. This could be a thing right here. The only concern I really have about this, the lids, is that they are not clear. So it's like I have this sitting underneath the grow light typically. it's not going to get that grow light from above with this sitting on it. So I could also saran wrap them for the time being, or if they're, you know, until I feel comfortable enough with that, or once it's acclimated. You guys get what I'm saying. So I'm gonna do it the same way I did it before, just because I didn't have any problems, but it's probably easier once again to use it the opposite way because it's easier to pull it out. Less resistance with the soil, but it's soil, so it's not a problem. If it was stones, that would be a problem. That would probably mess up your, the equilibrium. Couple smaller pieces to fill in the gaps. And that's good enough. And let's get some of our soil once again. And I know I've said this before, like you can use the stones, but I feel like that's just like, you know how when people tell you if you're planting inside a cash po to put stones in the bottom for drainage, and then it ends up causing more problems than not. So I tend to do that with my terrariums. I admittedly would put stones in them when I worked at the plant store just because for aesthetic reasons. But I would also do a really light layer of charcoal instead. I would do like just like 1/8 of an inch of charcoal. I'd probably use like the finest charcoal that I could find. And then I would kind of have the soil in there too. So the soil is technically touching the bottom of the planter, so it's able to suck it up. It's just not that much, but that's just a lot right there. So this is gonna be amongst other plants. We're not gonna need to see what's at the bottom. And on top of that, if you're not using like a mesh screen or something on top of the stones in between the soil, it's just gonna get dirty. So I just skip all of that when I'm doing this at home. But we'll go ahead and pull this out. Once again, I'm just gonna put this small spoonful of soil over top of our layer of charcoal. And we have a lot of room to get creative in here. I'm pretty excited about this one. So, counter's a mess, as always. Don't mind that. How do I want to do this? We're gonna add in some more soil, getting my exercise in, my reps in, reaching down, pulling up the soil. We're gonna add some soil around the perimeter of the planter. Container, it's not a planter. This is meant for like spaghetti or something. I don't know, but I was just keeping an eye out. I'm always looking for swing top bottles because I do like a lot of cocktail projects as well. That's something I'm pretty passionate about. And I like the swing top bottles if I'm making like infusions. And if you go to like a kitchen store that costs like $8 for what costs like $2 at a Marshall's or a TJ Maxx. So I'm always keeping an eye out. But today, they did not have any swing top bottles. Instead, they had these canisters in the same exact section. So that was perfect. I have our Peperomia Metallica Columbiana variety. I think this is gonna be really beautiful today. And I'm happy that it's dry because then it's gonna be able to acclimate much better to this environment. Once again, those tweezers would really be coming in handy right now. Also, once again, mentioning when people would be literally pooping their pants when we grab their houseplants by the stem. Just trying to get this in there at a better angle. You know what I need to do? I need to pull some soil off of this. So let's get our handy dandy collapsible bucket. Just break off like the bottom inch, like the half. This is from a 2-inch planter. Obviously gonna fit in our container much better than a 4-inch plant would, which is what this is. This is probably technically a 3.5 inch. But let's get this down inside. Hopefully not have to pull it out for a 4th time. But it's just a little difficult. I'm surprised we haven't broken any leaves yet. Like, did I just break one there? No, we're good, we're good. Okay, so we have our Peperomia inside. This is not gonna be easy. Oh God, this is not gonna be easy at all to decorate. So that Peperomia Silver Bandit would have definitely been a little bit more difficult. So I'm gonna add soil in, shake my plant. We're gonna continue this process. I'm trying to avoid the leaves, but it's pretty much impossible. Let's add a couple more scoops and then shake the plant. Just to get around the perimeter, get the soil up to the level that we like, which, like I was saying, is no more than 1/3 of the container that you're using. In fact, less is better. If you can stick within like the lower 1/4, I think you're going to really enjoy the way your product looks. Let's give this a spank, and then we'll shake the plant a little bit now that it's in space. I'm so worried I'm gonna break one of these leaves. Oh, I did break one. I did break one. It's okay. Anyway, it's probably best that I'm working with this houseplant when it's drier, because peperomia plants, you know, my taco test, this is not passing the, or it is passing the taco test? I don't know. I've never really came up with a definitive answer for that. Its leaves are folding up like the taco test suggests. So this definitely needs water and is much more flimsy versus if this peperomia was like more succulent, I'm sure I would have broken like half of the leaves by now. So hot tip, work with your peperomias when they're dry and flimsy. So this is looking good on the soil front. I'm just gonna carefully, okay, no, we're not gonna do that because I'm just gonna cause some problems. Oh, this is looking fun already. When I put the moss in, I like to put the moss in first before I do any layers of like stones or bark, because I just think it looks so much better when the stones are like on top of the moss rather than the moss like placed on top of the stones, if that makes sense. So I'm just gonna take this moss, I'm just gonna like break it up. This is very, just like you can break it up into as many pieces as you want and it'll just look cohesive. I can just ball this all back together and you'd have no idea I just broke it apart, you know what I mean? So, I need those tweezers. So let's take some of this. This moss looks so good, by the way. I can't stand the look of, not trying to call out any brands here, but the super moss, it looks so bad. I cannot stand it. But this stuff looks so real. Like when we get it, when I got it delivered, don't do it anymore. It just looked like it was like freshly harvested, which it's obviously not harvested. They're like growing it themselves because it's sustainably produced. It shouldn't just dig up moss out of the ground. Oh my God, it looks so good. So there's just that piece of moss right there. I like the idea of kind of doing the moss like around, if this is the front of the planter. I keep calling it the planter and then like stumbling as I say it when I realize it's not a planter. I'm thinking like around this part would be cute to have the moss and then maybe do like some stones on this half. It always looks best if you're not just like cutting something down the center. Like things look so intentional when they are in even numbers. So like if I was to cut this into quarters, for example, it would look so bad. I mean, like beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Maybe you would like the look of that. Me personally, I would not like the look of that. So yeah, I'm gonna add another piece of moss down at the front. I really can't believe how fresh this moss still looks. It's preserved moss, obviously, but we're coming up on 2 years that I haven't worked in the industry. This looks like the day that I bought it. And it smells like it too. So I think I went a little far around like I said I wanted to, but it still looks really nice. I think I might just zhuzh it over a little bit more. And I'm also going to work the moss around the back here. So we're almost going to have like 2/3 of the perimeter of moss and then like a nice pocket of like 1/3 of the perimeter of stones. Super sexy. All right, so we got that 1/3 left of space. It looks like we have like the perfect amount of stones. Oh gosh, like this could really damage the leaves. I'm gonna try to work it back behind. Oh, thank goodness these leaves are so flimsy because they would be snapping if they weren't. The back of the spoon is definitely coming in clutch today. And then I'm just gonna take like a couple stones. I'm just gonna like throw them on top in random places on the moss just because unintentional is best. We always want everything to look as unintentional as possible. So just some cute stones. Don't want them all in the same spot around the perimeter. Get them in there, kind of nestle them in the moss. You could even do this with like pieces of orchid bark. Like I could maybe just even grab a couple of these pieces of bark right here and just like drop it on top just to give it like a little bit more of a natural essence. Just a couple pinches. It's not the star of the show. It's just like the pepper of our terrarium here. I think those rocks are going to be what really are showing through. Cute. And last but not least, let's take this stick. My poor stick. I don't want to cut it. I have this sitting on my TV stand, but I just like feel like if I get this inside there, that's a vibe. And this is obviously the last thing that we can do because can't move anything once the stick is in there. So I'm just gonna grab some, what are these? Precision snips. I could use something heftier for this, but it's just not gonna work, so let's see. We could also save this other half of the stick for another project. I just think this is gonna give it so much more life. So let's cut this around here. Which this stick, did I say already, it's an orchid, like a dried orchid stalk, like a flower spike. But I think they literally like put these on like other orchids at the store for like, I don't know why, but they do it. I might have done it a little too long. I want it to really be like in there though. Yeah, it's not bad. I think that gives it a lot of character. Let's put the lid on. I'll forgot to spray it, obviously. That's so fun. I think I can move the stick around. I don't think the stick's in the perfect spot, but maybe make it a little bit more all across. Or maybe I need it to be behind. Just trying not to damage my plant, of course. There we go. Let's get the squiggle side much more apparent. I think that's fabulous. I think that gives it so much more life. Are there more steps we could do to make this even more fabulous? Absolutely. But I think it's perfectly fine as is. A little gemstone thrown in there would change the game. Do I have one? I do. Give me 1 second. This little piece of, I don't know. I have no idea. I would have known when I was a child. Unfortunately, I did not retain that information. So let's just get, oh, well, that stick is getting in our way. We're gonna have to pull the stick out. I knew this was the last thing we could do. Let's just throw it down there in the front. In fact, I'm gonna remove this one stone that we had originally in the front so that this gem can be more of the star of the show. And this is a pretty nice stone, so maybe we'll just toss it back here. Keep it involved. Let's get our stick back in. The stick is the star of the show. Truly, in my opinion. Alrighty, and then let's give it a spray. This one's a little bit more cleaner around the perimeter. Ask me how I did that. I don't know. Oh my God, I would love for this to work. Give it a good spray. No more than like a centimeter of water or a ½ an inch of water in the canister or terrarium, whatever you're working with today. It's just a really fun project. I did not know what I was going to be doing when I sat down today. I wasn't sure if I was going to fail and then just end up repotting a bunch of houseplants or what. But honestly, this is pretty neat. I feel like I do wish, just looking at these, oh, well, taking them off camera, I love the way the level of soil is on this one. I wish I got this one a little bit lower in retrospect, but it's fine. I just really like, obviously, trying to make that point across. I really like my soil to be in that lower quarter. But the third's fine. I'm telling myself it's fine. Okay, this isn't working. Ace Hardware. What's going on? I'm gonna wire this some other way. But this is gonna need a good drink. Once again, I'm probably gonna let it just like sit to air out for a couple of hours. Probably in the morning, I'll end up throwing This one I'm probably gonna throw it on in a couple hours because this loves humidity. But this guy's been living outside of humidity in just my standard household humidity, and it was dry. So I think it would appreciate not being just thrust into a super moist environment that could incite it to rot. So I'm just gonna let it establish. But once this is established, I don't think I'll have any issues. But it's a peperomia, fingers crossed. Fortunately, it was like $4 if I do kill it. So it's fine. Telling myself it's fine. But otherwise, we have, if it does die, we have some pretty good bones of a terrarium to work with. But yeah, this was really fun. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'll just put the lids on just to give you the vibe. I'm not sure if these are going to be the respective lids, although I do really like the bronze with this more earthy terrarium. So here you go, an example of just a plant planted inside one of these canisters, an example of a terrarium that we created, full-on landscapey terrarium inside one of these canisters. So you can get really creative. I'm sure you could walk into like pretty much any craft store, particularly a craft store like an AC Moore or Michael's. I feel like you could probably find some real cool glass canisters that they probably carry more often. Obviously, Marshalls and TJ Maxx kind of stores are more like one-off. You get what you get, and half of the time it's damaged. So this is a pretty good find in my opinion. So yeah, I'd like to get more creative like this in the future. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. If you don't already, you can follow me on Patreon for even more houseplant content and that little tour of my new apartment. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Philly Foliage. Subscribe to my channel, of course, and I will see you guys in my next video. Have a great time.